Hey everybody! Today we're going to take a historical look at All Hallows Eve and answer the age-old question, should Christians celebrate Halloween? Let's dive in. Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone who's been supporting this channel. It means a lot to me and it's awesome to see how this thing is growing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it if you did. Just hitting that simple subscribe button, the like button, maybe leaving a comment, tells YouTube that more people should see this and they put it in front of more people. So just a simple thing like subscribing to this channel could get this information out there even better. Also, if you haven't checked it out yet, we have a podcast that releases new episodes every Wednesday. I realize not all of us have the time to sit down and watch a 40-minute YouTube video on theology, so we've decided to condense some of it down and put it into podcast form. I'll make sure to leave all the links in the description below so you can find it wherever you listen to your podcast. But now, let's get to the fun stuff, Halloween. So before we dive into its modern day expressions, it's important that we clear up some common misconceptions about the origins of Halloween. While doing research for this video, I realized that quite a lot of Christians out there think that the origin of Halloween actually comes from an ancient festival known as Samhain. Samhain, it's not spelt like it sounds at all, so I'll let you decide how to pronounce it. The festival of Samhain is said to predate any other European tradition on October the 31st. Samhain was an ancient festival or seasonal holiday celebrated in pre-Christian Ireland that wasn't fully exposed to Christianity until about the 4th or 5th century. It's important to know that most of the history we have on this holiday come from Celtic sagas or stories that weren't even written down until about the 9th or 12th century by Christian monks. These stories were passed down orally for generations, and it's thought that when the early monks who were acting as missionaries in Ireland got around to writing down these stories, they may have changed some details or embellished a bit, so it's hard to really say what's accurate. The Festival of Samhain is based on the premise that the end of fall, around the end of October, early November, that the spiritual veil between our world and the spirit realm was at its thinnest. And because that veil was at its thinnest, spirits could come from their realm into ours. This might sound like a totally pagan idea, but actually it shows up in your Bible. The ancient Jews believed that the time between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., called the fourth watch, was when the spiritual veil was at its thinnest. This is why if you go back to the Gospels and read, when Jesus was walking on the water, the disciples thought he was a ghost because he was walking somewhere between the time of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. when the spiritual veil was at its thinnest. We know this because it says it took place during the fourth watch. So, call it ancient superstition, maybe the ancient Jews knew something about the spiritual realm we don't know, but for whatever reason, they had the same type of belief that the spiritual world had a veil that was thinner at certain parts of the day, much like the Festival of Samhain. But the holiday we call Halloween today shares little or no ritual practices from the original Festival of Samhain. The fact is, some people will try to relate Halloween and Samhain because they take place during the same time of year and both have to do with the spiritual world, but most scholars agree that this is merely just a coincidence. So, just to clear it up, our Halloween actually has no direct connection to the ancient festival of Samhain. In fact, our Halloween has a much deeper connection with our next point, All Saints' Day. Halloween is actually a contraction for All Hallows Eve. The word hallow meaning holy, or could be interchanged with the word saint, because saints were believed to be holy, and Eve just being the day before All Saints' Day. And as you may have guessed, All Hallows Day or All Saints' Day takes place on November 1st. So obviously All Hallows Eve takes place on October 31st. The concept of this holiday is actually pretty simple. All Saints' Day is when the church would remember the saints and the holy ones who had fought and fallen for their faith. All Hallows' Eve was actually more symbolic. On the eve of All Saints' Day, the symbolic demonic realm attempts to obtain victory but is crushed by the joy of the kingdom that Jesus brought through the cross. And the way the ancient church would symbolically crush the demonic realm is through mockery. This is commonly thought to be where our modern day image of Satan comes from. No one in the ancient church thought that Satan had horns and a pitchfork and a spiky tail and wore all red, because the Bible clearly teaches that Satan was a fallen angel and furthermore an angel of light. So when it came to mocking Satan, a silly or ugly costume was the best way to do it. The ancient church believed it was important to mock Satan and evil because of the battle they lost with Jesus on the cross. Because of what Jesus did, evil no longer had power over us. And if you've ever been to Europe and seen the old churches with gargoyles on them, this is basically the same idea. The churches would create hideous or comical characters symbolizing evil spirits and place them on top of their churches. This was done to mock the evil spirits and to show them that they had no power over the church and its people, that the evil could not do harm to the church. To the ancient church, the best way to show that evil had no more power over them was to make fun of it. Some people may think that gargoyles are demonic, but they're just not. They were the church's way of ridiculing Satan and his defeated army. So, in remembrance of this evil being defeated by what Jesus did on the cross, the eve of All Saints' Day was a day where you could dress up and mock those evil spirits. It became common practice for adults and children to dress up and mock the evil spirits and mock Satan for the battle he lost at the cross. This is also why Martin Luther, famous for the Protestant Reformation, nailed his 95 reasons or thesis on why the Catholic Church was wicked. And you'll never guess what day he chose to do this on. That's right, All Hallows' Eve. Martin Luther decided to take the day where it was commonplace to mock evil and then align the church of his day with that evil. This is why All Hallows' Eve, or Halloween, is also known as Reformation Day. Now, a little side note, there's some people who believe that the ancient church chose October 31st and November 1st to convert the Irish over from the Festival of Samhain. But there is an issue with that assumption. Records as early as the year 609 show the church celebrating some form of All Saints' Day. And it wasn't always on November 1st. Sometimes it was in the spring, sometimes it was in the summer, but always called All Saints' Day. It wasn't until the year 837 that Pope Gregory IV declared November 1st officially All Saints' Day for all the Catholic Church. So it would be a pretty big stretch to say the church created All Saints' Day or chose the dates for All Saints' Day just to convert some of the pagan people from Northern Europe, because by that time Christianity had a much larger reach than just Northern Europe. If by chance there was some crossover between Samhain and All Saints' Day, it would have been minor and at a very small local level, and it definitely wouldn't have impacted the greater Catholic Church. There's just no historical evidence suggesting that the Catholic Church based All Saints' Day on the Festival of Samhain. Now, fast forward to about the 16th century and we start to see some practices that we still celebrate today. At this time, wearing costumes on All Hallows' Eve became customary. And in England, a practice called souling started. This is where people would go door to door asking for prayers for their loved ones that had passed away. And it wasn't uncommon for these people asking for prayers to offer food or treats in exchange. Now, for modern day Christians, the idea of asking for prayers for our loved ones seems really strange. And I would totally agree with you, except we have to remember at that time, the Catholic Church had a practice called indulgences. This is essentially where the Catholic Church would sell you a certificate that would clear your loved one who had passed away and get them out of purgatory or limbo early. Martin Luther had a huge issue with charging people for this concept. So the idea of souling or going door to door asking for prayers for your loved ones who had passed away instead of paying the church for that would seem like the more economic solution, especially if you were poor. Oh man, the Catholic Church. I hope you're starting to see how the practice of souling is connected to our modern day expression of trick or treating. Over the generations, this practice evolved and became less about prayers and more about treats, but it still holds its foundation in the ancient practice of souling. And today, trick-or-treating might not seem like a big deal, but in the Middle Ages, treats like candy were not available to everyone. They were difficult to make and could usually only be afforded by the wealthy. You could see how for children this day was very special. They dress up, they're mocking Satan and the evil realm, and at the end of the day they get a treat. It is worth noting that our modern day Halloween in its totality isn't really directly related to one particular practice. Instead, just like souling and trick-or-treating, our Halloween has evolved over hundreds of years and generations into what it is today. Not to mention the huge commercial success it's had over the past 150 years or so in Western culture. Candies, movies, attractions are just a few of the ways Halloween has been made into a much larger spectacle today than it probably ever was in the past. It's estimated that every year Halloween brings in about $6 billion of revenue into the United States alone. Profits like that, as far as holidays concerned, are only second to Christmas. Now, there's no doubt that over the generations, certain aspects of Halloween have been twisted and perverted. But I do think it's important to acknowledge the hyper-Christian history that this holiday holds, and the significance and meaning that this holiday had to the ancient church. So now, the big question. Should Christians celebrate Halloween? Well, let's go through a really quick checklist. Number 1. When you and your family celebrate Halloween, are you doing it to worship Satan or other evil spirits? For you, is Halloween the celebration of evil overcoming the world? Are you using this holiday to intentionally practice witchcraft or harm others? If you said no to those 3 basic questions, then personally, I don't see any issue with letting your kids dress up like Iron Man and getting loaded up on sugar for the evening. Halloween can absolutely be harmless fun. But I grew up being taught that it was evil and we should never celebrate it. But I was never once taught the Christian symbolism or origins of the holiday. I was just taught flat out, it was evil. So I do think it would be beneficial for the modern day church to re-educate its people, not just label the holiday as evil, but really show them the history behind this holiday. I think in a way, just by throwing away this holiday, claiming it's evil, it's no good, we're kind of admitting defeat. We as Christians are letting something that has a deep, rich, historical, godly context be hijacked by paganism and consumerism. We're letting a day that the ancient church thought was really important be made more about evil than Jesus conquering evil. So before taking your kids out trick-or-treating this year, maybe take a few minutes and educate them on the history of Halloween and how the ancient church was celebrating what Jesus did on the cross. That way, when they're on the street having their sugar rush and they're going all crazy, maybe they'll remember what Jesus did on the cross for us and the evil he defeated. To me, that's absolutely cause for celebration. But in whatever way you decide to observe Halloween this year, I hope you're safe, I hope your family's safe, and I really do wish you have a good time. My wife and I try to dress up every year, but because of the whole COVID thing, we're not even sure what we're doing. But if you know what you're going to be for this Halloween, leave it in the comments below, let us know, send me a picture if you'd like, that'd be really cool. And also let me know what your favorite Halloween candy is. If you say candy corn, I will delete your comment. No. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Remember that the truth will set you free, and that truth will always leave bad religion defenseless. Have a happy Halloween. See you guys soon. Peace.